From Chicago, Illinois, this is Think Differently, a show that explores people who are challenging the status quo and how they do their work and choose to live their life. From doctors and designers to entrepreneurs and artists, hear the stories, learn the insights, and see what it takes to think differently.
So I'm running low on coffee, and I order the Good Dude's coffee, right? I go to the Good Dude's website and I order it. And then 2 days later, I get a notice saying it's shipped. And I'm like, so I text Josh. I'm like, yo, dude, I ordered the coffee 2 days ago. I'm going to stop drinking. So I had to go out and buy some just junk coffee. And I feel like I'm becoming lesser of a good dude because I've gone 3 days without Good Dude's coffee.
So I have I was at a little market here. There's this really cool place in Chicago. It's a huge, like a 2-block warehouse, 3-4 stories high, 2 blocks wide. And it's called Architectural Artefacts. And what they do is when they tear down churches and old buildings and bars and barbershops, this place goes and they get all the stuff. And in this warehouse, they'll have like 20,000 square feet of just bars, of just dentist chairs, of like mannequins, cars, doors, windows. And so I go there, my wife and I would just go there, we'd walk around and hang out, and they had a market there. And I saw this thing, it was a little Sasquatch. It's like baby Sasquatch. There was a market. I'm like, that is so cute. I'm like, what is that? So I went over there, like, oh, we're a coffee company. I'm like, dude, I love coffee. I'm like, can I help you? Can I help you guys with you're like, they're like, oh, it's the two of us. We're building this business. So I had her on the podcast and I was like, dude, I want to help you guys any way I can. So they sponsor the podcast. They send me coffee and I'll send you out a bag, man. If you send me your, no offense to Josh and the truth, but if you're down, man.
Josh needs a little competition in my house. My house just grabs its ankles for Josh. We love Josh, everything Josh. I will say this, that coffee, I don't drink it because it's Josh Bridges coffee. I drink it because I've tried all the super trendy coffees in my area. I've tried a ton of great coffees. And it actually, I buy the beans and just pour them into my coffee maker. And my coffee maker has this grinder and it does everything for you. And his beans grind so nice and it looks so pretty and it smells so good. And I get the most compliments from people. But yeah, I'd love to try this coffee, but I really do. He nailed it. And because he's such a prima donna around his coffee, I value his opinion.
Dude, there's something about these just badass humans. There's like a subset of them that are, and they're SEALs too. This guy, Evan Haffer, from Black Rifle Coffee?
I know of him, of course.
Right. So same thing, special ops, right? Navy. I mean, this guy, these are the baddest of the baddest dudes, and they are like prima donnas about their coffee. So I don't know what it is, but yeah, dude, I'll send you out some for sure.
I'm a sucker for brands too. So like, there's absolutely nothing tough about me. And Josh is so damn tough, that wrestling pedigree, the CrossFit games. Man. And so like the brand Victos, I love their gear because they sell gear for gunslingers. And, I'm like the farthest thing from a gunslinger. And
well, you got those cameras, man. You got your used to have double slinging, man.
So I love what the Josh Bridges coffee does for me mentally, for my ego, and the same with like the Victos brand.
Yeah.
You mentioned something, Mark, about wanting to help people. It's funny. That's how I feel. There's this beef jerky that I always push.
So Go Snacks.
And I don't make any money from them. I still order and buy beef jerky from them. But I reached out to the guy, and he's a guy who used to be in the, big industrial corporate meat business. And he wanted to make something better. And so he found real grass-fed beef, where there's laws around grass-fed beef in Australia. And he started making his own snack. He's not killing it. I found him on Amazon, 2 years ago. So I just reached out to him and I said, hey, let me know how I can help. And he gave me, anyone who buys it and uses the discount code 3 Plain Brothers, a 10% discount. So I figure, hey, and I don't get anything from that, but it's like I'm doing the same thing you're doing. And I really think that's cool. You just help people who you appreciate their product. It's like, it's cool. It's a cool thing. To me,
it's almost like, so when I grew up and So when I grew up, I spent a lot of time going to Grateful Dead concerts, right? I'm the youngest of three boys, and
You're
I'm
not
kind of
old
like,
enough to do that.
well, I think we're similar. My wife, I introduced you to my wife. I was like, dude, you got to check out Sevan. She goes, is this the guy is this the reason you want to turn our basement into like a jungle gym? I'm like, yeah, that's the guy. I'm like, cause it's smart. It makes sense. And so she started watching, and she's sitting on the couch. I call it, she does the Princess Leia. So once the kids are down at the end of the night, she takes some time, she sits with her legs to the side. Like she looks like Princess Leia next to, Jabba the Hutt. And I'm like, I walk out, I'm doing some stuff, come back. I'm like, what are you looking at? She goes, I'm still on the Three Playing Brothers site. This is amazing. I'm like, I told you, this is good stuff.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
Yeah. So at any rate, I would go to these dead shows, and there's this subculture of deadheads, and it's all about helping. It's about, they have their own barter system, right? Oh, I don't have money, I'll trade you this shirt, you give me whatever it is, right? And so I kind of got introduced to that. I think also my parents, like, they help a lot. Like my parents, the youngest of three boys, I witnessed them doing good things for other people that they didn't know without expectation of return. I think that's one thing I've kind of always gravitated to about you, especially with Three Playing Brothers, right? And in the work that you're doing now there, is that, like, if we do good things and we do good things for people, if we raise good humans, that's better for everybody, right? Everything is better when there's better humans in the world. Business is better, society is better, health and wellness is better. We're more compassionate, empathetic, understanding. We can persevere through challenges. And there's this dude, I used to be a teacher. I used to be a Chicago public schools teacher. There's this guy who taught across the hall from me. Wasn't a big fan of his. He was kind of douchey. But when he found out I was having my first child, he gave me a CD. That's how old this was. He gave me a CD. He's like, dude, you gotta listen to it. It's just like this famous child psychologist, and I'm all about this. I'm like, yeah. So I took it. I threw it in my car when I was leaving school. I got about 5 minutes in, and I heard a little nugget, and I stopped after that because I'm like, it can't get better. And this guy said, unless you're going to cure cancer, the greatest thing you could do for mankind is raise good kids.
Woo! Woo!
Like, that's it, man. I'm like, that's it. That's it. And like my kids, so I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Ooh, you know stuff.
Yeah. Well, we only know what we experience, right? Everything else is just words on a page or, sounds in the air. But until you experience it, yeah, I mean, and I think about that. People are like, dude, are you crazy? Why would you have a kid so far apart? I'm like, dude, I need another hands in the world, man. I need another soldier out there fighting the good fight, So yeah, I do think there's a lot of, like you said, you kind of let people in. So thanks for letting me in. I think we definitely have some alignment on a lot of the big things in life, man.
Congratulations on the three boys. That I just love hearing that.
I have a girl in that. Yeah,
that's fine too. But having three kids is awesome. Just having three kids is awesome.
It really is, man. Yeah, like I said, I was the youngest of three, and my daughter's in the middle. And even with you, and the boys, and just looking at their personalities develop, and it's like, where does that come from? Like the nature versus nurture. Like, it's so amazing to watch people grow and see like where their fears, their lack of fears, and see where this comes from, where it develops, and how you can start to see an inkling of hesitation or fear within one of your kids. You're like, okay, well, I know their personality, I know what I would do, but what I would do might not be what they should do. And it's always about, I think you had a video, you talked about creating space before you react, right? And I think that's it's a huge part about just not only being a parent, but just being a human, is like, we have these immediate reactions, and it's our ability to, distance ourselves from emotion to then think about objective, what would make the most sense logically. That's what separates us from chimps, I guess, basically.
My wife has told me, hey, if you get me pregnant again, I swear to God, I'll give you triplets. Like, she says it like a threat. And I think to myself, oh man, I would love to have three girls. If I could get her pregnant and she have triplet girls, I would be like, yes, that would be awesome.
Dude, my daughter, man, she is, when they were younger, and I mean, they're still young, but I used to say, my son, scholarship. Anywhere he wants to go, scholarship, CEO, this guy's got, he's an old soul. He's empathetic. He's worldly. He's academic. He reads, he consumes more information that like YouTube can't keep up in the bookstore can't keep up with him. And I'd say, my
Wow.
daughter, she's gonna be a cage fighter. I said, for him, he'll get a scholarship. For her, we'll need bail money. She's just got this. I said, he got all my empathy, my compassion, my anxiety. She got all my rage, my like just fearlessness, which is like the dichotomy of our brains there. But yeah, it's just amazing to watch them grow, man. I enjoy watching, as creepy as this may sound. I love watching your kids grow up, and I know that that's really the kind of the mission of some way of like Three Playing Brothers. It's like, hey, I'm a father, and my wife and I, we're going through this challenge. There's lessons that we're learning. There's certain things we're doing that we find to be good for kids, good for humans. Let's like share that knowledge. But I just remember, I think I just started watching like your Instagram posts, and it'd be like the I think Avi was just jumping. You're like, come on, you could jump, just jump. And I remember for a while it was just jumping. It was like, just jump, you'll be okay. Just fucking jump. And I'd be like, that's such a simple thing that we tend to be like, oh, get off the curb, right? Oh, get off the couch. But jumping is such a metaphor for life. There is so much more than the physical act of jumping. It's about leaning over the edge, assessing risk, knowing that you're going to be okay, that you can see your dad there. And then from there, I just watched this Three Playing Brothers kind of brand thing just develop. It was really exciting to watch. Like, I guess a very explicit question is, like, was there conversation between you and your wife about showcasing the kids in this way? And like, what's her role within that?
So the most candid thing is that pretty much no, there wasn't conversation. So my background is I just make stuff. So I was a homeless guy working in a home for disabled adults, and in Santa Barbara, California, and saving every penny I made because I was a homeless guy. I had no bills, and I knew how to find food in dumpsters. And I was making $7 an hour, working 80, 90 hours a week, and I became filthy rich, right? I had like $5,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I just bought, what Apple came out with, a laptop. I hadn't used a computer in years. This is in 2000 or something, 2001, two. Apple came out with a laptop. Oh,
You see that right back there?
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
first.
Yes.
Dude, and
Yes, I do.
I have my first. It was called the PowerBook. That was the laptop I got. I don't have my G4, but I pulled my money. I made this thing. I started making wedding videos, charging a few $100, and the computer paid for itself in like a weekend. But so I'm sorry, go back. So you were homeless. You were
So
working.
I'll go back. I'll go back even further. There was a Super Bowl. I want to say it was 1984, and there was a commercial for this computer called the Macintosh. And my mom was only making $12,000 a year, and she was a single mom making $12,000 a year. Had my sister and I, at the house, obviously raising her son and her daughter. And I saw this commercial for this thing called a computer. And the very next day, I took my mom to Macy's. I was probably in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I can't remember. And I said, "Mom, I want this." And it was like $3,500. And it was the very first Macintosh. And it was the first day it came out with the 64K discs.
Yep.
And my mom bought it for me.
What?
Can you fucking believe that? I know, it's crazy. In hindsight, I'm like, what was my mom thinking? And
Dude, I just got goosebumps.
And she put that computer in my bedroom, and anyway, so flash forward, I'm this homeless guy living this ascetic lifestyle, wanting to be enlightened, and I come across this idea that, oh, there's going to be a computer, and there's going to be this software called Final Cut Pro, and it's all going to come out in the same day. So I take every bit of money I have, and I buy basically a Toyota camper shell truck thing. I buy the computer, and I buy the 10 DVDs that are Final Cut Pro.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
I spend every cent I have, and it takes me 2 weeks to load all 10 discs into the computer. There was no internet back then, so I was on the Apple Help hotline for hours a day waiting. And after 2 weeks, I finally get it loaded, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I've spent my entire fucking wealth, everything I've saved, on this fucking computer that I don't know how to use, this software I don't know how to use, this fucking piece of shit 1977 Toyota Chinook thing. And so I told myself, hey man, you better learn this shit or else you're going to hate yourself forever. I had put incredible pressure on myself. And from that day forward until today, I've just made content. There's probably all sorts of firsts that I did. I probably had the first TV show on public access ever made with Final Cut Pro. There's probably a ton of things that I made several movies on Final Cut Pro, and I just sat in that Chinook. I worked all day and edited all night. So when my wife knew me during that period. My wife worked at that home for disabled adults. So
That's how you met?
My wife we met. I met her just in this college town, Isla Vista. She was just some chick, just some hot chick that you're like, yeah, you got to get that. And I courted her for 5 years, man. And
wow.
so when I started making videos of the kids, my wife knows nothing. My wife knows that that's just all I do. I'm always filling iPhones full of footage and cameras full of footage and tapes. And I have 3 100 terabyte hard drives that sit over my computer that hold my entire life in there. Right. So when I started making them, I did have a friend who say, hey man, there's just pedophiles who sit around and watch your videos. And I said, no, I don't know that. And so that was said to me. And I don't know if I wish he didn't say that to me, but I think about that more than I want to. It probably pops in my head once every 2 weeks. Like, I had a video pulled off of YouTube because I had the boys jumping in their underwear. Right. Someone reported me. So, how it is being a parent. Probably my judgment is not, they're my kids. I see them as 100% pure. And, you kind of see the world, even though you're not supposed to, the way you think everyone sees the world the way you do. But then and to add on to no, we don't really talk about it. She's actually much better than me. If she makes videos of the kids, she always runs them by me first. It's just, I don't know why she does it. If she didn't, I wouldn't be upset, but she does run them by me first. And, yeah, that's sort of where we are. The way the Three Plane Brothers, there's 2 things I could talk about there. The jumping thing. So people ask me all the time, how did you get your kids to do this? Well, first of all, because we CrossFit, I know that struggle causes adaptation, and all parents should take their level 1. And I could, if you don't know how to raise kids, it really is, forget anything else about the level 1, just everything they tell you in there, just pretend like it's about how to raise kids, what to eat, how they should move, discipline, structure, routine. They talk about all that shit in there, and you can just apply it to your kids. That's what I do. I would just walk Avi. I lived in Berkeley, California. We lived in this insane community with 10 beer gardens, 10 coffee shops, skate shops, bike shops, sushi, Whole Foods, little markets, hippie. I mean, it was crazy. So I walked Avi to death since when he would crawl, I would have him crawl a mile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I know.
And that's how he started jumping, because he would just jump off of and he would fall a lot, right? He would fall 500 or 1,000 times a day. Now think about that. If you're listening to this, imagine falling 500 times in a day, no exaggeration. And if you did that 300 days a year, that's 15,000 burpees a year you're doing. And that's that's how Avi cut his teeth. And then we had the rings hanging in the house. But yeah, and now I want to make content that's helpful to people. And I've sort of I'm rethinking, I want to make sure I make content that adds value to people's lives. And I'm trying to embrace this person who has knowledge about parenting. It's hard because I'm just faking it, right? I'm just faking it till I make it. And so, but I also do want to embrace that position of not authority, not like parenting guru, not parenting expert, but I want to make stuff that people want to see. And I want to be an entertainer, and I want it to be funny, and I want it to be
Mhm.
educational. And like you said, like if I can help people make better kids, that's where I've landed. But really I'm taking my cues from what I know and the outside world.
Well, I think that there's things that we know that we have, like, again, I'll use the word that we've objectively learned, right? There are skills, right? Again, like you said, get your L1. There are things that you will learn, that these are things that they're written down, they're documented. You can read them, you can watch them, and they're replicable. And then there's this other subset of things that we know that are just inherent to us. Like I have to go back to the story about your mother buying you the computer, right? She didn't have to do that. There's something within her that was passed down to her that was like, I need to do this for my son, right? Financially, probably might not have been the best decision in the short term, but there was something within her that she knew she had to do that for you. And all the things that you are doing for your children now, and really for other people's children, it's just this thing that you know. Like if you
Right.
don't do it, like it's almost like if you didn't do it, you would feel the adverse effects, the negative effects of not doing it. And I think that I think maybe I tell people that, you know, parenting is just making decisions and then spending the rest of your life second guessing those decisions. That's really what it is, right?
Yeah.
You're like, no, no, you're not. This is not what we're doing. And they're like, oh shit, should I have done that? And then you're like, that's all it is. It's all these head games. There's something you said also, Sevan, which was you're this authority, but you don't want to be the authority. You're faking it till you make it. I think
Yes.
that is the thing, especially nowadays. I mean, it's 2020. I heard somebody once say the world is clear now. The world is clear, meaning in the 70s, if you had a big company and you're like, we're environmentally friendly, but out the back door, you were dumping toxic waste into the river, nobody knew. But as soon as these things happened, the world is just, it's transparent. All it takes is one person to click that picture, upload it, and now your cover is blown. And
Right.
so that clear, that transparency of the way that we live and the accessibility to information, it almost by default allows you to be the most genuine authority, if anything, right? Because you
Right.
talk really candid in your stuff. Like, I don't know, this is just what I think. And I think that's why people go to you. I think that's why people will spend the time to listen, to try to emulate in some ways. You know, I went on Marketplace, I bought some tumbling mats and some cool stuff, you know, for the baby to just to start to fall. I want them to fall. Like we talked about skateboarding. Falling's important. That story about Avi basically doing, you know, 15,000 burpees a year or whatever just by falling.
Right.
That's such an important lesson. And the
Yep.
fact that your mother did these things for you to enable you to be who you are, to me, that's these are lessons that are passed down. Again, some documented, some not, that allow you to kind of be that person, to be that parent. One thing you said that was really interesting, I have to just jump in. You were like, I want to be this authority, but I also want it to be entertaining, and I want it to be this, but I want it to be educational. So in like the software development world, right, there's this term UX, the user experience. And one thing that I help people develop stuff like that sometimes, right? And so don't your glasses get sweaty with these headphones on, by the way? I know you've lived your life like this, but I was like, fuck.
I opened all the windows before we started the podcast, and it's 6 a.m. here. So I put on wool socks and got the house really cold and made myself a hot cup of coffee. I made this perfect environment for myself.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So I was going to talk about user experience. So this is, and again, this is, I think, how my brain works. I take things from other areas of life and then apply them to where my life needs to be, right? So
Okay.
one thing you do, it's called user experience goals. You get all these Post-it notes, like Post-it notes everywhere, and you write down like adjectives for what an experience could be, right? Meaning like your 3 playing brothers, you want it to be educational, you want it to be fun, you want it to be immersive, you want it to be simple, like all these things. And then you have to choose 3, right? So maybe you and your wife, you sit down like, oh, what are the top 3? And then that is your North Star for everything that you want to create. So like, hey, we're going to make this video series for Patreon. Cool. Is it simple? Is it educational? And is it entertaining? It is good. It passes the cut, and you put it forward. And I try to do that with a lot of different stuff in my life. You know, is it helpful to people? Is it simple? You know, those are like the goals that I try to think about for people. It's pretty cool.
That, that's really cool. In my years as working CrossFit Media and running CrossFit Media, there was this saying, I want to remember exactly what it is that Greg used to do, but there were these 3 things. Like, we would be like, hey, should we make this video? And he says, you should do the right thing for the right people for the right reasons. And if it passes that litmus test, make it.
Oof.
And it was crazy because it really let us create so much fun stuff. Yeah. The right people. Yeah, it was
Do the right thing, the right thing for the right people for the right reason.
Yeah. And so, and he would act like that too. So he would just make decisions if if an affiliate reached out or someone reached out to him and they needed help, if it passed that litmus test, he did it. And sometimes you'd be like, what the fuck? But it was legit.
It's like people say equal is not fair. Like things should be fair, but sometimes fair is not always equal. That's probably a whole bigger conversation. Nonetheless. Something I did want to ask you is funny because, I told you I introduced you to my wife, Jenny, just the other night, and she's kind of gone down the rabbit hole. And she goes, you got to ask them, winter's coming, we're in Chicago. What should people be doing with their kids? And I was like, but to me, you can go anywhere and find that stuff. I think what sets you apart, and I think, again, going back to this genuine nature, is there's more than just, hey, have your kids do these movements, because movements alone won't they're just like the icing on the cake, right? And I know cake, but it's the meat, it's the spirit, it's the soul, it's the kind of ideology of why we're doing these things that is really more important. I think that's what I'm getting at with you. But a thing that I did have written down here is that when I think about you, I think that there are, let me throw it to you this way. I'm like an extrovert, but I define extroversion meaning I get my energy from other people, from outside myself, right?
Okay.
When I sit alone and I meditate, I'm a mess. And I'm, I have to be by other people. And so I went through a period where probably like in, my 20s and 30s, everybody was getting married. You end up at all these weddings and, you're in these social situations where I need to be to get my energy, but it's like work for me. Like I have to work. I want to talk to everybody, yada, yada, yada. At any rate, I just remember being at a wedding and I looked at the dance floor and I, danced with my wife. And I just remember, well, that guy's like, he's dancing hardcore. And I'm like, that guy's making a fool of himself. And that guy, like, he's just doing the hitchhike. And I had this thought in my head, which was, what would Jay-Z do right now? If Jay-Z was at this wedding, would Jay-Z be doing the chicken dance? And maybe that's who I want to be in this moment. Like he'd just play it cool. He'd bob his head. And so I started adopting this thing. Is like, I would look for like archetypes to be like, what would be appropriate, participation or things to do at times. And over my life, as I meet more and more really interesting people, I start to try to think about what can I take from the buffet of life to kind of put into my life. And when I think about the buffet of Sevan, I think that there is fitness, but with soul, right? It's not just about weight, but it's about why do you move this weight in this way? I think about family. I think about parenting. I think about your relationship with your wife. I'm curious more about that. But I also think about things like your diet, right? Your fasting. I think about all these different creation. And so my question is, aside from CrossFit being, defined as CrossFit defines what it is, are there other like objective things in your life that you're like, this is the name for the thing that I do? Like, is there the diet that you subscribe to? Is there the, CrossFit is a regimen. It's a way to move. It's a way to, to achieve levels of fitness. Are there other things that you can name in your life that you subscribe to?
So like, am I Christian? Am I a like methodologies,
sure.
like thoughts, like things? So yes, there are. It's interesting because my wife's given me a lot of those. So I'm a huge fan of Lao Tzu. He wrote the Tao Teaching. I'm a huge fan of Taoism. Huge fan. There is so much
right here.
It's that would be that's something that's been consistent in my life since the day I picked up that book. If I'm not sure what to do, um, that there's a lot in there for me that speaks directly to me. And I think a part of it is because I don't know what the word is, but because it speaks in like oxymorons, um,
Totally.
it allows me to create space in my brain, right? So it's like it's two opposing thoughts, and then as I start thinking about them, I get stillness through them. So maybe it's not so much the words. Um, the other thing, so what I've been doing because of I guess I don't know if this is true what I'm going to say, but in hindsight, for sure it's true. Because of the coronavirus and because of COVID and because of my beliefs that if you stop eating sugar, you will be 100% inoculated from dying from
Hmm.
the coronavirus. I have started the carnivore diet. And I did the carnivore diet for 2 weeks, just strict, I think it was strict. It was just meat, basically just ground beef, eggs, and hard cheeses. And
Hmm.
then in the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've switched to, I have every day I try to have a clamshell of greens, just like go to the store and buy like those super greens. Yep. And just make baseballs and eat
Yep.
those. So I do that and I do meat. And then I started taking these pills I found on Amazon because someone told me I need to have organ meat and I don't eat organ meat. So
Or
it's
you
these
saying
pills
organ,
have
like
something that
liver
you
and stuff
need.
like that? Are you saying organ, like
Yes. Yeah.
liver,
Yeah.
heart? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Like that kind of organ. So I've been doing, so that's something else that I subscribe to. It's really, really trippy. I'm in something that's called ketosis, where my body has stopped burning
Hmm.
glucose and it's burning fat. Um, Everywhere I go, everyone who knows me is like, holy shit, what happened to you? You look so different. Um, and it's been like 6 weeks of that, 7 weeks, 5 weeks. I don't know. But this is one of the most unique life-changing experiences I've ever had going into ketosis. If you've
Wow.
never been in ketosis, you should try it. Basically, I don't know if I don't know if my analysis is true, but I heard that you have these 2 to 4,000 calories of glucose storage with you at all times. So anytime it gets low and you're burning it, your body signals, hey, hungry, time to eat, right?
Hmm.
If you eat and you don't burn that, then it turns to fat, right? When you switch the fuel that your body burns from glucose to fat, you have like 40,000 to 1,000,000 calories of fat storage. So when your body's using that fuel, it never signals you that you're hungry because you have so much storage. So
Hmm.
something really weird that I've been doing for 48 years of my life, eating when I get signals of being hungry, I no longer have. My day is no longer interrupted by the desire to eat. It is mine. I can't
Wow.
even really get my head around it. Um, but really it's freed up a ton of headspace. I basically have to force myself to eat every morning. My wife will be like, do you want eggs? And the answer in my head is no, but I say yes, because I know I need to eat.
Yeah.
So, those two things are like pretty, pretty huge in my life right now. The Taoism is just in there. It's just a habit. And the carnivore diet is just something I'm doing. And yes, I have fasted for 36 hours once a week, and by fast I mean just black coffee for probably 30 weeks. My goal is to go a year. I kind of lost count, but so because I'm curious what it will be like to. I kind of just have this goal to be like, yeah, I didn't eat 52 days this year, right? If I do it once a week, so
I dig
that's
it.
yeah, those are just things I'm doing. It's also easier to do when you have these three. I'm 48 and I have these three kids, and I really, really need to stay healthy. I really need to be mobile, and I need to be on.
Yeah, well, first off, thank you, because that's exactly the type of stuff I was looking for. And the fact that you said, oh, the Tao Te Ching, and I literally have it right. I have this old wooden antique crate here that sits under a monitor, and there must be 15 books in there, but those are like, if the house was on fire, after
Yes,
everybody, this is what I'm running back in to get. And obviously, the Tao Te Ching is in there.
a buddy bought it for me when I was in college, and he wrote the little tiny pocket one by Stephen Mitchell, and he wrote um he wrote some inscription in there. You are the Tao is you, or something. I'm
Mhm.
like, what is this bullshit? you know. And then over the years, man, and it's crazy, and I still have it somewhere, and it's all taped up, and it must be around here somewhere. But since then, I've probably bought 50 copies in my life and handed them out to other people.
Yeah, that's like Tim Ferriss will often ask people, what's the book that you most often gift to others? That's one of them. I think, man, you know what? I told you I'm going to send you coffee. Can you see behind me right there? Those 3 books right there.
Yes, on the wall. Yep.
Do you know those books? Have you seen those before?
I can't see them very well.
So it's an author named Kobe Yamada, and the books are called What Do You Do with a Problem? What Do You Do with a Chance? And What Do You Do with an Idea? And they're children's picture books, but most children books are really adult books. And they're just that. What do you do with a problem? What do you do with a chance? And what do you do with an idea? And that's a book I gift to a lot of people, whether they have kids or not, because to me, my whole thing is helping people just think differently and bring ideas to life. Because I think that there's objective things in life, right? There's just things that you can quantify, things that you can measure. Then there's these other things, and ideas are like those other things. Go ahead, man. And like those other things. Hold on one second. Yeah. Is that it? Did you find it?
Did you get me this? Did you send this to me?
Yeah, dude.
I did. It's funny. The more and more I talk to you, because we've known each other for years through Instagram. Yes. And this sits on I have these around my house. Thank you. And this is a gift from you. Isn't that amazing?
Oh my gosh.
Years ago. You probably sent this to me 4 or 5 years ago. For those of you who can't see, I'm holding up this wooden block with a picture of my old podcast at CrossFit. And yeah, cool, right? Tyson Oldroyd, Dan Bailey, and Josh Bridges, and they just sit here on my desk or above my desk.
So remember we were talking about, first off, that's amazing.
What inspired me is because you said you do good things for good people. And I'm like, yeah, I got proof right here.
So dude, that company, that's a guy that I just met in Chicago. And I was like, dude, this is so cool. You're taking people's pictures. I'm like, I literally was like, can I help you? I'm like, this is too cool. More people need to know about this. And I was like, dude, I'll just help you sell these things. Like, no problem. Like, is it cool with you if I sell your product for your company? He's like, yeah, dude.
Yes.
And actually that dude, you'll love this story. That dude, he just started making those for fun. He went to India on a trip, and he was in there. I think he was in India for like 24 hours, maybe on a layover or something. He met a girl. He fell in love, and he's like, I'm going to come back and marry you. And he came back to the States, and he's like, I need to get enough money to get back to India to marry her, get her visa, and then bring her back to the US. So he built that company only to get enough money so that he can go back to India, get his wife, marry her, and then come back to the US. And they got married about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And now they're in the US.
Is this company still around? SHINER photo.com.
Yeah, Shiner Block. Yeah, they are still around. I get emails from Leo, quite often. They do sales and stuff. And it was just a guy with a dream. And his brother is a really interesting guy, a serial entrepreneur, but just a kind soul dude. Like I'm like a Jewish guy from Chicago. So you meet these other neurotic, anxious, Jewish Chicago guys, and that's who his brother Sam is. But just an amazing thinker. And this family, his mom was an artist who they made a Netflix movie about his mom. I don't know the name of whatever. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah,
I didn't even know you were Jewish.
Yeah. Well, I noticed because your son Avi, right? I have like cousins named Avi. My father is dude. This is a great one. So my mother, my grandparents on my dad's side, right? My grandfather, whom I never met, was one of 7 that came over from a small town called Siget, Hungary. It was on the border of Hungary and Romania. So dating back, depending on where that border lied, some of my ancestors were Hungarian, some were Romanian. And when they came to the US, he got sick, and the family, he was like 13. They're like, you just stay here with the landlord. When you get better, you come to America, find us in, New York.
Shit.
And so like, I don't
Can
even
you
want,
imagine leaving? Can you imagine leaving your 13-year-old and crossing the Atlantic on a boat?
Dude, my son is
Oh,
14. He went
God.
for a ride the other day. I'm like, bro, drop me pins every 20 minutes. I need to know where you're at. So at any rate, when he came over, whatever. So he comes over, he meets my grandmother. They have a really, we run hot. We got hot tempers, whatever. And so they had a really tumultuous marriage. And when my father was born, they're in the delivery room and the doctor said, all right, we need to name the baby. And my grandmother said, I want to name him Abby. And my grandfather was like, we ain't naming him Abby. It's a girl's name. He's like, we're naming him Avraham. His name is Avraham. This is our son, Avraham. She goes, well, I'm the wife. I get to make the decision. You put down Abby on that birth certificate. She goes, and if you want to name him Avraham, you buy me a fur coat and I'll come back and change his name to Avraham. And Hans's where, we live in fight or flight. He's like, that. So my father's name, it's Abby. He's Abby Hans.
Awesome. Did they come through Ellis Island, your grandparents?
They did not, because they what we found is that they actually made a decent living in a small town. And so because they had a little bit of money, there was another spot that they came through. They did not come through Ellis Island. It was further south. It wasn't like Texas or anything, but there was another spot where they came through. My cousin Andrew does a lot of the genealogy and kind of helps, kind of track that. Which
Ballers. They did what Jay-Z would have done. They came the other route.
Seriously, dude. My dad, this is probably maybe like 8-10 years ago. I went to an event in New York City. It was on the Lower East Side. I was like, Dad, you're from New York. Like, do you know this? And I'm like, look at this cool venue. It was an old bank building on the Lower East Side in the Bowery. Beautiful dome, just this cool building. I'm like, Dad, do you know where this is? And he looked at it and his face just changed. He goes, dude, when I was a kid, my father, who was a jeweler, my grandfather, he goes, he would send
a Jewish jeweler, huh?
Go figure. I guess all the accountants were taken. And he goes, dude, your grandfather would send me with a bowling bag. It was like a bowling ball. He'd fill it with diamonds. And I would go from Brooklyn down into Manhattan with a bag of diamonds. He goes, I was like 12 years old, dude. He goes, and I would go and I'd give the jewelers their diamonds. They give me cash. I'd take this bowling bag of cash to that bank and I would make the deposit at that bank. And I was at some innovation event at that place. But, the more we even just talk about, kind of history and where we came from and stuff, it brings me back to our kids, because our kids are living really interesting lives right now. I always say, when I was a teacher, I would tell parents, I was like, listen, if your kid is struggling, it's because the kids that we're teaching today are different than the kids we taught 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, what have you. And kids are just changing. Like the world is so dynamic and changing so rapidly that I think some of the skills that we need to teach kids and really help them almost discover in some ways are things like resiliency. That was something Pat Barber talked about. I interviewed Pat Barber and he talked about resiliency and he talked about anti-fragility, but resiliency, collaboration, dealing with, challenge. These are the things that, technology is going to solve or make a lot of problems for us, but we can't lose these things that separate us from chimps in some way. And again, I mean, not to bring it back, but that's what I love about watching you raise your kids, is because that's really, to me, what you're doing. And I think that, you've got a great personality. Like you're always you, and you can be tough. You're a hard-nosed guy, right? Like you don't take shit from anybody. And people may be like, oh, that's hard. No. This comes from a place of love. I think that oftentimes if we give too much, if we make things too easy, we think we're doing that out of love, but we know that that's just the short term. The long-term thing is let them suffer, let them challenge, let them grow, because 5-10 years from now, they're going to have that moment where everything clicks for them. And these longer lessons they've learned have now kind of, the seeds have grown metaphorically, because you have like that bomb ass garden in your backyard.
It's almost egotistic, not almost, it's egotistical to not let certain suffering occur. And if you don't like that word suffering, I'm okay with you not liking it. Change it to something else. And there's probably is a better word, but if you rescue your kid from discomfort, you're doing it for yourself. You're being self-centered 99% of the time, I'd say. And, you're not being a good parent. And no judgment there. like, I'm okay with you not being a good parent. I'm not a good parent sometimes too, but you should come to that realization, and you should let your kid go through that discomfort. Your job is, when the kid is going through discomfort, to climb to the highest peak and make sure nothing comes and gets him, and let him deal with his discomfort in peace. You're there to protect him from bad people. You're there to protect him from lions. You're there to protect him from fire. You know, if he can't run away from fire, you're not there to pick them up when they fall on the ground. That is your time to go on guard duty and protect your kid while he gathers himself. And those are the discomforts, and there's fewer and fewer of those opportunities, because we live in such an amazing, beautiful, awesome world with iPhones and cool shit that I love. But that means that you have to be more mindful to let your kid, to let your kid go through discomfort. And then you have to turn your back to him and make sure nothing gets him. You know, you're the lion. You know, let the kids play, and you just climb up to the peak and make sure that, you know, the alligator doesn't come in and get them. And I think that's, I haven't talked to Pat. Pat's a friend of mine. I haven't talked to him about resiliency, but I'm guessing that's what Pat means by resiliency. You got to let them go through some discomfort, and don't project your bullshit onto them like shoes. You are like, once again, I want to be really clear. I have strong opinions on this. And if you put shoes on your kid, that's fine. I'm not like judging you, but you are 100% doing bad shit to your kids by forcing your kids in teaching them to wear shoes. They will know when to wear shoes. My kids tell me when they want shoes. I get it. Skateboarding sucks barefoot. Yeah. So they tell me to put on shoes, and I got them ready, you know?
So I guess let me dig into that real quick, because I think that I see, you know, anybody that again sees your content, you know, specifically with the boys, there's a few things that stand out. Okay, so on the surface, and I know I don't want to take up too much time. Do you have a hard stop, by the way, at a quarter?
No.
Okay,
No. I'm good. I
okay.
have, I'm taking the kids to jiu-jitsu today, and I'm going to take them to the skate park today. And I need some content for my IG. So those are the three.
Well, I got some pictures. I'll send you some photos. All right. So here's the thing. Again, I always use my mother-in-law as the example,
Please,
because she listens to the podcast. If she were to go to your Instagram, these are the things I would say she probably would notice right off the gate. One, the children's hair is very long. I don't know if it's been cut, right? It's very long. Two, don't always have clothes, shirts on, right? Or shoes, right? When they were in diapers, and I don't think the twins, I don't know if they're still in diapers. I know they're not in diapers, but they would always like be walking around just diapers, long hair, and they're always doing stuff. They're skateboarding, jiu-jitsu, ballet, playing piano, sight words, running, jumping. Okay, so just like open it up here, man. Like, what's the deal with the hair? What's the deal? You just started to talk about shoes, and that's how we got into this. What are the thoughts on this?
So the shoes. So the other day, I took them trick-or-treating, and someone made a comment on Instagram. Oh, it's awesome that they're barefoot. I didn't even know they went barefoot. Like, why would I know? Like, but I'm glad they pointed it out, but it's awesome. Like, that's the mindset I'm in. Shoes are something you do. Don't question the people who aren't wearing shoes. Question yourself. Why are you wearing shoes? What have you convinced yourself? What bullshit story you're telling yourself? That the ground's uncomfortable, that your feet are going to get dirty, that it's going to hurt, that you're going to like, which one of those stories are you telling yourself that you're believing? Why are you believing that? What have you tried? How long have you been barefoot? You know, like, so the hair. So another one of my dearest friends, Dave Castro, makes fun of me all the time because he thinks I'm trying to pull some progressive liberal shit by like having my kids with long hair, and other people think, oh, I'm like gender fluid. No, it's none of that shit. And the same thing with I dress them in girls' clothes. I dress them in those capris, then with the
sweater vest,
Chicano wife beater, and then the sweater vest. And the reason why I do that is I always thought Baryshnikov was a stud as a kid. Like, he was like the paragon of masculinity for me. So I knew from when I had kids, I told Haley, I'm dressing them like Baryshnikov, like tights and a wife beater, and they're going to be able to dance and fight, and they're going to be able to do everything in these clothes. They can work out, they can throw on the sweater vest and go to church, they could go to a funeral, they could do whatever, but they're always ready to throw down. They're ready to dance and impress a girl, and they're ready to fight to protect their harem, you know? And I, that's how, and the hair started off as just laziness, I guess. Laziness is too strong, but I'll go with it. And then it ended up being attachment, right? So now my wife and I, my wife brushes their hair every night, because if you don't, they get dreadlocks. I mean, I cut a huge dread out of poor Joseph's hair.
Wait.
Oh, you got a dread?
These are my dreads.
Yeah.
These are my dreads, dude.
Uh-oh.
These are my last set of dreads that I had probably early 2000. Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna make someone vomit.
But yeah, I know what that's like to have to comb that hair. So
she's always threatening to cut their hair because it's 20 minutes of crying and putting in the spray and all that stuff every night. But I am attached to it now, but there's no political ideology behind it. I'm not trying to show, I view my boys as very, very masculine. I view playing the piano as masculine. I view ballet as very masculine. I'm of Armenian descent,
Mm-hmm.
there's all those, Russian and all those influences on that over there. And we just have a different idea. You know what I mean? We're a kissing culture, I kiss my dad 200 times every time I see him. So we just have a different view of it, but there's no, the outfits are threefold to be very easy on me. But say them in the exact order of importance. My kids can throw down in their clothes at any time, anywhere, anyhow. 2, I want them to look really, really nice. I think it's crazy not to keep your kid pristinely clean. Every time my kids get out of the car, I wipe their face, because I want the guy at the store to say hi to them. I want people to want to interact with them. I want people to like my kids. I want to make the world easy for them on a superficial level. I want people to greet them. Yeah. Like they're clean. And then the third thing is it's really consistent. It's just easy, right? So I get these pants on Amazon for $9 each. They usually burn through at least one pair a week each. And they all I can hand everything down from Avi to the twins. And so that's the dress. And people trip on the hair. It's weird, but yeah, I'm living it. So it's not.
Yeah, we don't see it, it's just a non-issue.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And people are like, and I've had other good friends tell me, hey man, you're gonna confuse them because everyone thinks they're girls. That's horseshit. Everyone thought I was a girl till I was 9. It didn't matter to me.
Totally.
And my son, Avi's 6, and I think I've only heard him correct someone once. Recently, he walked. Some guy's like, "What are you gonna be for Halloween?" He goes, "I'm gonna be a fireman." And he goes, "You mean a firewoman?" And Avi just looks at me and laughs. Like this douche.
He's like, seriously, I'll throw him in a triangle.
And I rarely correct people. If I do, it's not because I care. It's because it's just funny. Like some little kids, he's been friends with kids for a year who thought he's a girl the whole time. And then finally I'm like, that's a boy. Or they see him standing up peeing. They're like, what? So I know what he'll eventually, he still's got his baby fat and he looks like a little cheruby. So as time goes on.
Well, it's funny you say that, there's the visual perception of what we see. And as you, subscribing to Taoism, you're just such a soulful person. We know that what we see is really just like a millimeter of what is actually there. And so I think that as the boys get older and they grow, one thing that I will say, I forgot how you said it earlier, when I said that my oldest is, in high school. You're like, oh, some stuff. One thing, man, that is so humbling is that my oldest will still, we each 3 of the kids have like a different kind of routine at the end of the night. Right. And ever since Charlie was little, I would tuck him in. I'd tell him the 3 things he's going to dream about. I'd make up 3. When he was little, he's like, oh, Thomas, the tank engine's going to be in the driveway tomorrow morning. And the second thing you're going to dream about is, there'll be a jet and we're going to go to Disney, whatever.
I love that.
He's 14.
Uh-huh.
He's almost as tall as me, Sevan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, all right, brother, good night, love you. He said, 3 things. He's 14 and he still wants that, right?
I love it.
And when he does that, I look at him and I look at Charlie, I get goosebumps not even thinking about it. And I look at you now that I get this clear view, like I see your eyes. I always say, look at somebody's eyes. I see your eyes. I see your kids. You look just like your kids. You got Avi's eyes. If you look in your eye, if you look in someone's eyes, you see it's the gateway to their soul. And when I look at my 14-year-old, who now he's losing that baby fat, and he's getting tall, I still see that 3-year-old, that 4-year-old. I still see the kid that I would take down to Wrigley Field to see the Cubs games and sneak him in because he was a baby and I wouldn't pay for him.
Awesome.
But to me, that is, I think a lot of what we talked about this morning was that there are things that if people were to just see you, see the boys and see your life, they would just see things. But the visual layer is just it's just nothing because it's what's inside. It's the resiliency. I love, dude, you said something that I had to write down. You said, let them experience their discomfort in peace. That's going to be the name of your book one day, right? Discomfort and peace. But I think that it's just, well, one, I just want to thank you, man. This is like a great conversation. I know you're just starting off the day there. For me, this is a great way to start the day. It's just a good, honest conversation.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I did this podcast yesterday, and this guy, I'm doing more and more podcasts so I can figure out, I can learn about myself. So I didn't do podcasts for years. People would ask me and I just wouldn't do them. And now I'm like, I need to hear myself talk a little bit and learn like what's going on in my brain. I need people to help pick my brain. And this guy really, really wanted to dig into like my principles of raising kids. And I think I did a really shitty job, but it was a good start for me to lay down, to start working, you know what I mean? To start like, hey, being able to articulate what I'm doing better, even though I did it before I articulated it. It's time for me to reframe everything I learned from CrossFit and life and my wife and start reframing it and get it down. And maybe that will be the name of my book, Discomfort and Peace.
I got some other good notes here, man. Well, if you
go. I have time. Go ahead. Do you have something else? Okay, go.
Yeah,
I think I have 6 more minutes until shit hits the fan here.
So let me just ask you a few quick questions, right? And I'll try to go more towards quick stuff than the deeper stuff. One day you'll be gone. Unfortunately, we're all gonna, dust to dust kind of a thing. What do you want your children to say about you?
That I was very loving, because my whole family was extremely loving, extremely loving. Uncles, aunts, mom, dad, everyone was always touching me, carrying me. I always had a cold hand on my forehead, a pinching my cheek, a hand up the back of my shirt. My mom was always just so loving to me. My dad was the same. Like everywhere I went, I wanted to hold my dad's hands. I loved it. And my dad would squeeze them until like I would yelp and it would hurt. And I loved that. Or my dad would pull my ears. I loved that. I loved all the attention he gave me. So I just want my kids to have that same experience. You know what I mean? I want them to have those same memories, like, because any bad stuff that, it was funny. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was driving, all the bad shit or stuff that I was hung up on as a kid that maybe my parents did to me, like really, really superficial, stupid shit. It's kind of all going away. Like I didn't even have to work through it. Maybe I need to work through it, but it kind of it's gone away. When I look at it now, it's just like, it's absurd. And really, but even if I wanted to get rid of the thoughts of how much my dad loved me, I couldn't. I'm just embracing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me go down that line for a minute here.
He was always there for me. 100%. Both my parents.
Is your father still around?
Yeah, my dad's still around. And they're always my mom was always there for me. I mean, I lived at home until I was 34. I came in and out of my mom's house like a rat. Wow.
So to go quickly down that road there, there's so much love in your life, in
Yeah.
love for love of life and love within your life, right? You
Yeah.
clearly have a passion for living your every little hobby you have, the gardening, the hoses, and your yard, and just the way that you build your life around your family. My wife once told me, I didn't read the book. There's a book, it's like about love languages, right? And it's about how you show love for people and how you receive love, like how your preferences, right? So it's like you can give words of affirmation, you can give gifts, you can spend quality time, it could be physical, things like that. Are you aware of the way that you both show love to people and how you like to receive love from people?
I am I think I'm very aware of how I like to give love. I don't think I'm very aware of how I like to receive love. I really enjoy being alone. I really, really, really like being alone. And so, so like at night when I sleep, I purposely sleep on my back with no pillow, and so that I try not to fall asleep. It's kind of a weird. I hear people say they have trouble sleeping. I don't want to fall asleep. I want to have time with myself. I want to put my attention on my toes. I want to put my attention on my
Yeah,
heartbeat. I want to put my attention on my scalp. I want to hear my breathing. I want to so I know how I like to give love to myself, and I know how I like to give love to other people, but I'm not sure how I like to receive love. I do know about friendship. I really think it's important not to put pressure on our friends. I think friendship, we should almost take our friends for granted, or here's a better word. We should let our friends take us for granted. We should be supportive, and we should not put pressure on our friends if you really want them to be your friends.
yeah.
We shouldn't cage them. We shouldn't cage them. We shouldn't
I always
force
say,
them. If they
go ahead.
Friendship should be a convenience. I always use Adrian Bosman as the example of that. His friendship, he's made it very clear to me that his friendship is my convenience. And like, what do I want to do? I want to match that for him.
Yeah, I've never heard it stated like that, because you're right. I think that we do put kind of self-imposed expectations on friendship, like I reach out, why don't they reach out? Or, I think of, my best friend was a Marine. He was killed in action in Iraq. And I always think about, I didn't know about the Marines until Chris became a Marine. And then when he became a Marine, I knew about the Marines. And then when he was killed, I became friends with all these Marines. So now I know about the Marines. But I say that a lot of things in life are like the Marines, right? Like a friend should be like a Marine. And what I mean by that is, if they're doing their job, you don't even know they're there.
Right. Yep. Well said.
They got your back. Things are safe. They're out there doing their thing, and they're always there when you need them. So that's an interesting way to think about that. Friendship is a convenience. I like that, man. Well, to wrap things out here, I end each episode by asking the guest to fill in the blank on a sentence. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. Fill in the blank. All right. Sevan thinks differently about blank.
Sorry, my wife just mouthed to me, "Did you hear that?" My kids must have said something really inappropriate across the room. Oh boy, you're gonna hate me for this. Like right away, I think, oh, I don't want to say anything because I feel like it would be arrogant. I would feel like, Sevan thinks differently about. God, I don't know if I think differently about anything. You're right. You did put me on the spot. I don't know, Mark. I'm so sorry.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Haley, what do I think differently about? All right, good. Thank you. My wife said everything.
All right, man.
It's everything. Okay.
Well, we can. I'm going to leave it blank. I'm just going to leave it blank on the episode title. It'll say Sevan Matossian thinks differently about blank. Let me
Good.
ask you, just to round it out here, real quick. Where should people go to? Again, I think anybody that listens to this, if you have a pulse, if you have blood flowing through your veins, you're going to want to learn more about Sevan. Where should they go to learn more?
So basically, you can just go to at Sevan Matossian, SEVAN, MATOSSIAN. It's pretty easy to find on Instagram. There's not a lot of Sevans. You can go to at 3 Plain Brothers. And then if you really want to dig in and you want to go further from there, you can find links to my Patreon account. I'd say 90% of the stuff on my Patreon's free, but if you want to subscribe, you can get the little extra 10%, which is basically just me doing voiceovers and trying to share stuff that the subscribers want. So I take requests from the subscribers and I try to make the videos.
Very cool. Yeah, I'll put links to that in the show notes. And lastly, is there anything you need help with right now? A lot of people, not like your podcast, but people listen and they come from all over the world and all different walks of life and skill sets. Is there anything that you need help with right now that people can help with?
Boy, that's really kind of you to say that. I can't think of anything. No, everything is just chugging along smoothly. Yeah.
Excellent.
Hey, do we know who won? I know it's 8:02. I haven't turned on the TV. Do we know who the president is or no?
No, I think when I woke up, it said it was too close to call.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
I'm gonna go.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check that out now.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, Sevan. This has been awesome. Again, thanks for being out here. Thanks for sharing your life with us and give us a glimpse and some great wisdom today. I really appreciate it, brother.
And tell your mother-in-law and your wife I said hi.
I will, man. I will.
Okay. Bye.